So you see I've created some that have conditions off of the mod wheel. And this is off of my 249, and let me open up B3 and also rotary. There it is. Okay, so what I've got now is, notice the pedals are connected to these. When I push the mod wheel up, I play the upper register instead. And my Leslie gets turned up. And it also gets turned up here. So the lower register is doubling on the pedals to add kind of a sub-bass element to that lower manual. And it runs at low speed, which you would expect kind of for a bassy thing. And then I push that mod wheel up, and I've just sped up. And I've sped up, in this case, I sped up both. I did have to do a little MIDI learn action off of this, but so it's going to differ from VST to VST how I learn the organs thing. Once you've learned it, if you save the preset, it remembers it later on. Okay, so that's all very nice, and it all lives up in here. So what I did is, the first, for the upper panel, when it's greater than or equal to 64, I pass 1 over to channel 1, which is the upper manual. But nothing's getting passed to the lower manual. When I go have my mod wheel below less than 64, then I pass channel 2. I pass whatever's coming in becomes channel 2, and that's the lower manual. And then the third one is simply whatever comes in goes to channel 3, again, only if the mod wheel is less than 64. Okay? So you see, Douglas, our inspiration are from Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, Douglas and I, we were brainstorming how would you make the pedals and lower manual play together before, and so I got that. And this one is just handling it, sending it to 4 for the MIDI learn for the B3's own slow fast, so that works. Now to get this to MIDI learn, you have to do one thing. You have to go in here, and this is probably true with other VSTs. When you're in MIDI and you select your item, I'm going to have to close this to show you. Well, I can maybe move it out of the way. You got to make sure you turn off everything but the one that you want it to send, to get. The one that's sending on 4. Because notice, this one's sending on 1, this is sending 2, this is sending 3, and it completely discombobulates the poor plugin and confuses it to no end. And so once you've got it isolated where you're just sending 4, then you can move the thing and do a MIDI learn and learn the thing. And then you simply save it after you've got it successfully MIDI learned. So you see I've got 4 and with controller 1. All right. So that took me a bit of figuring out, why isn't this working? That kind of stuff. Okay, so of course this is very nice. Yeah, you all know how to do this. See, you can make this happen. You can go ahead and type all this stuff in yourself. Now that you've seen it, you could watch the video replay and type all this in. Or Terry can be kind, and he can make a rack that does the same thing. So here's a generic rack that has MIDI's outs going to the B3 and rotary. In this case, I don't have to send to rotary here either. And it's just got these all in as MIDI, rack MIDI in, out ports to rack MIDI out, and the same assignments. And so nothing to do here, just an in to an out with the routing. And but will it blend? It does. Okay, so that's great, and we can apply this because it's generic. Can be applied to any organ. And again, I had to do that MIDI learn thing with this coming from here, and isolate the channel 4 item before I did MIDI learn, and then when I saved this and saved the song, it all remembered it. However, how nice wouldn't it be nice to not even be bothered this far and forget this routing? We're still having to remember to do stuff. Oh, I hate having to remember to do stuff. So instead, let's get rid of this stuff. Let's make a rack that's self-contained with the B3V and rotary and all contained inside the rack. And, but I can't, and you got to do the same thing. Turn these off so it doesn't confuse it when you do the MIDI learn. But once you save it, it gets saved with this rack and remembers it in the future. Okay, so here we go again. And notice, as long as I'm holding, I can do my slow fast, but as soon as I let go. Neat, huh? So now this is, you can make this rack, becomes the template for adding, using replace plugin.
But in this case, the lower manual seems not doubled by the pedals, or I am mistaken.
Oh, I wasn't playing low enough.
Ah, okay, sorry.
It's only the first 20, yeah.
And there's a transpose involved there. But let's go ahead and take a look again at that. So we have this one, and see there's a transpose -2 also. So it goes to 3, transposes at -2, so that the keys, those will play it. And it just uses the same condition. It's a great use for conditions. And so this way, one keyboard can take advantage of all 3 manuals that you've got on that organ, right? And you don't have to go to the pedals, and you could use bindings to turn that on and off. Oh, it's this one here. You could use pedals to turn the pedal on and off so that you're not doing the sub or states. And voila. So that's kind of a really cool thing. And no filters involved at all. No fancy dancy anything. Just straight through routing tricks. And that's it. It's just really nothing. And I just have the VSTs that I want and the effect all self-contained inside the rack, and away it goes. Okay, so I'll upload this thing to you guys. It's exclusive. It's only for people watching this video that you no, well, of course. Yeah,
it's $9.95.
$9.95. Or get it for free by sending me your email information and put you on a mailing list, send you gobs of marketing stuff. Anyway, okay, so all right, so that was to get into the routing discussion that I wanted to point out, that how I could start out with this experiment, and then I simply did this and right-clicked over the hamburger menu and said copy, created a rack, and pasted it in, and changed the routing. Okay? In the first case, I changed it to so that I had my rack MIDI and rack MIDI out, and just was doing alt to MIDI out, you see, alt to rack MIDI out. In the second case, I did my routing internally to the items that were inside, so I only had to put stereo out to the rack stereo out. And I also threw in a out channel 4 for recording purposes. I could rename a channel that I call organ recorder, right? And have that be always something I include in my recording set, is just whatever's coming out of this rack. All right, and of course some people don't like to just put through the Leslie. They like to double it, have the straight and the Leslie. And of course you could create a situation where you can crossfade those two also using a slider, with one at plus 0 to 127, the other 127 to 0, and use that as a crossfader to do a mix perhaps, or something like that. But that's beyond the scope of this discussion. Yeah, that's why I included it, right? Yeah.